Today, I want you to steal from me. Take it. I don't need it. It helps a lot of people. I feel like I just got to give it away. This is my checklist. So I would say this is my Sunday checklist, but honestly, whenever your weekday starts, the day before, this is my pre-work week checklist. Welcome, everyone, to the Pre-Diet Podcast. I'm your host, Allie Virtue, functional medicine nutritionist and owner of Parkside Nutrition. Also, recovering emotional eater, binge eater, horse enthusiast, general nutrition nerd, essentially. All right, in this episode, we are talking about the key questions I ask myself and I ask my clients each week to make sure that they are prepared to have a great week. There's no list of good foods, bad foods, etc. That's not my style, if you haven't caught on by now. My goal is to really help people feel good, have good energy, endurance, be able to do the things that they want in their life. So we're covering the critical habits that help my clients and myself feel prepared. So this is about 9 questions and answers. I'm not just going to ask you these questions and hopefully you get the answers right for you. I'm going to give you some suggestions. So this can definitely serve as a guide to help you feel more prepared, more organized, without feeling overwhelmed when you're trying to have a good, happy, healthy week. A few quick reminders to brighten your day and boost your health. 1, hopefully you're listening to this when you're going for a walk. Move with intention today. Number 2, eat well, whatever that means for you. Just eat to feel good, and usually that gets us going in a good direction. Number 3, follow the podcast, share the podcast, leave a review, leave a comment. This really helps grow the show and help me share more real life nutrition advice with more people. Lastly, please subscribe to the Free Shit Friday email list at parksidenutrition.com to get some free nutrition resources delivered right to your inbox every single Friday. All right, let's get on with the show. Today, I want you to steal from me. Take it. I don't need it. It helps a lot of people. I feel like I just got to give it away. This is my checklist. So I would say this is my Sunday checklist, but honestly, whenever your weekday starts, the day before, this is my pre-work week checklist. So you would be surprised how often simple logistics, practical steps get in the way of having a really good week for some of my clients. And there can be a lot of unseen steps when it comes to eating well, getting more exercise, things like that. On paper, they look really simple. Eat this, go on a walk at this time, exercise 3 to 4 times this week. Well, there can be a lot of steps that, if those are new habits for someone, even if they're old habits, we forget about some of the steps that help prepare us for that. And if we're a little bit more prepared, we're usually a little bit more successful. Now, that's not an excuse to not get the things done, even if we're not fully prepared. So if you don't prepare everything on Sunday, you're like, well, it's going to be a crap week, and you just throw in the towel. That's not what this is. This is not a free pass to do that. But we hopefully want to be a little bit more organized if we can. So these are the steps that sometimes we don't necessarily think of, or we think it's obvious and we don't really have to think about it. I think this will eliminate a lot of frustration when people are beating themselves up, saying like, why can't I do this? It's just simple. Just eat healthy. Why can't I make myself go to the gym, et cetera, et cetera. This is your tool to help stop that kind of spiral. So let's dig into the first point on my list. Number 1, did you go to the grocery store? It sounds really silly, but sometimes people don't have a regular routine for going to the grocery store. And it's not like it has to be a certain day, certain time, or anything like that, but making sure that you go probably a little sooner before you think you have to. We don't really want to get to the point where we have to be desperate of like, oh my God, there's literally not a thing besides a can of beans to eat in my house. Go a little bit before that. We don't want to get to the absolute bottom if we don't have to, especially if we're striving for optimal meals. We can definitely get creative when we are grocery shopping. So one of the things I like to do is do a little inventory before or when I'm writing a grocery list. So I know what I have in the house to use up and then kind of plan meals around that or plan to buy things that already go with the things that I have left. So I make sure to use those things up. Again, this is helpful when you can kind of talk these things through with people, but lots of strategies that you can do. But basically, step 1, did you go to the grocery store? Some people like to plan their meals first and then make a grocery list. I prefer to get foods that we want. So if I want steak, I want beef, I want salmon, etc., then we'll kind of make a meal out of that. I find that a lot less overwhelming versus thinking of like a specific recipe or finding a specific recipe and having to shop for all the ingredients, the small ones, the big ones, all that. I find that a little bit overwhelming myself. I might try one new recipe every couple weeks, and then that's kind of in my repertoire, and I can kind of throw it together from there. But I'm not the type to personally follow a recipe to the letter. I just like to live on the wild side, I guess. But step 1 is going to the grocery store and making sure you are stocked. My goal is also to help make people comfortable or learn how to do that type of cooking and that preparedness, I guess. Because I don't think that's how real humans work on a long-term basis of having a perfectly organized meal plan every week. I don't think you have to do that. If you want to, by all means, go for it. I don't see that working for the majority of people. But if we do have things cooked, so if we have some proteins cooked, some veggies cooked, or maybe, some meals outlined, then that gives us an idea and that eliminates some decisions. I think that's the key takeaway, is finding how you can limit your decisions when it comes to what are we going to make. And that honestly starts with like making sure we go to the grocery store on a regular basis before we get super desperate, and feel like we have to like, oh, well, I don't have anything cooked. It's going to take too long. Heading down that spiral. And before you know it, you end up at McDonald's or eating a food that just does not make you feel good. That's the key point there. Not that it's crap food. We know it's crap food, to be honest, but it's not going to make you feel good. That's the reason I want people to avoid those types of food. It's not because it's bad, quote. It's not because it's, high calorie. It's not for those reasons. If it doesn't make you feel good, we don't need to have it, right? All right, I'll step off the soapbox there. If you're thinking about what to buy there, another question to add underneath that would be, did I get some protein? I like to have 4 to 5 options for protein. That way you have plenty of variety. So this could be beef, chicken, turkey, eggs, pork, yogurt, cottage cheese, fish, seafood, anything like that. Tofu, if you want to get your plant-based protein sources, rice, beans, things like that. But are you consciously buying enough protein? And we'll get into that a little bit later if you are wondering how much you need to buy. Plants, did you buy vegetables? Fruits are great. Most people don't forget to buy fruit. Ideally, I want to make sure that people are buying enough vegetables to have a veggie side at most meals throughout the week. So I would say pick at least 5 varieties. If you're like, Allie, I don't even like 5 different types of vegetables. Humor me. Just make sure you have vegetables in the house as step 1. And they can be frozen ones. That's totally fine too. A lot of people think those aren't as healthy. They are absolutely fine and still count. Some fruit, that's fine. Some starches, if you're including those foods, rice, bread, wraps, beans, lentils, corn, etc. Sprinkle those things in, but they are listed underneath plants and protein because we want those to be the big focus. And then snacks, focus on meals first. Snacks are extra stuff. If we are using our budget wisely as far as our grocery budget, we are putting the majority of our dollars towards the meals. So we have good, filling, nourishing meals. And then hopefully we don't need as many snacks. Also, if our meals are better balanced, again, we get less snacky, we get less sugar cravings, things like that. So keep that in mind. And lastly is flavors when you're shopping. Do I have stuff to flavor this stuff? Especially if you are switching from kind of processed foods or lots of fast foods or lots of eating out. You're gonna need some things that are gonna pack a lot of flavor in because your food might taste bland, and that might be a reason that you are not really enjoying eating healthy because it might taste really boring to you. So make sure that you also prioritize some of your grocery budget to buying some sauces or looking up seasonings and recipes so you do have some good flavor to kind of keep you interested in the food that you're putting together. All right, question 2. There's a lot of sub questions kind of buried into that first one, but stick with me here. So number 2 is, do I have enough food? And this is a little bit based on the person. Some people do really big shops and then just eat whatever or eat all of that until, they're done. Some people do little mini shops throughout the week, and just depends on the person. Whatever you find works best for you. I do find that less grocery trips help depending on your level of discipline when it comes to impulse buys. So if you're someone who definitely buys things on an impulsive basis, try to limit your grocery store trips and try to stick to your list. I also find this really difficult because it takes a lot of food sometimes when we quote start eating better. We eat a lot volume wise. So the fridge is full on Monday, and then we've eaten through it like by Tuesday night or Wednesday or something like that. And you're like, crap, I got to go back to the store, I got to restock, etc. So I would love to talk a little bit more about how much you need to buy. So I did some math for you, and I'll probably turn this into a handout or something, or put this on the subscriber library, which is why you should subscribe to parksidenutrition.com/subscribe, and it will probably live in that library at some point. But so I want to break this down because a lot of people will try to increase their protein and then they don't actually end up eating enough, or they eat through all the protein that they prepared. So hang with me for this. So 1 pound of raw meat will lose about 25% of its weight. So once this 1 pound of meat is cooked, that means it goes down to about 12 ounces, a little bit less than 12 ounces once it's cooked. And if you are aware of protein sources or protein sizes, portions, things like that, you might know that about a 4-ounce serving of cooked meat is a good general good general portion. And depending on what that is, whether it's beef, chicken, chicken thighs, shrimp, turkey, etc., that's probably going to range anywhere from 29, 27 to like 35 grams of protein per portion. And if you are an average sized adult, you could be trying to get 120, 150 grams of protein per day based on your size, right? And your activity levels. But that gives us a general idea of how much we're looking for. 4 ounces might actually, it might be very filling, but you might need more than that. So keep that in mind. So if you buy 1 pound of raw meat, that's going to be about 3 servings if we are actively trying to keep our protein up. So keep that in mind. It's gonna feel like a lot, right? So for most people, breakfast is typically like eggs or yogurt, cottage cheese. So if we kind of put breakfast in that category of those quicker cooking proteins, then let's have ground meat, chicken, beef, shrimp, turkey, something like that for our lunch and dinner options. So that means 14 meals, 4 ounces each. That's going to be about 3.5 pounds of cooked protein, which means you're going to have to buy about 4.5 pounds to fill that requirement. So that's probably like the minimum as far as protein that I'm usually wanting my clients to consume is about 4 ounces at lunch, 4 ounces at dinner. So that means for one person to do that for an entire week, granted, this is not including eating out, but that's going to be about 4.5 pounds of raw meat that they're going to have to buy. So if you are doing a plant-based diet, this ounces and pounds might be off, but generally to get, if we're saying like 4 ounces of ground meat is X amount of protein, your portion is probably going to have to be like 6 to 8 ounces of that vegetarian plant protein source. So the volume is going to be a lot higher because usually when we're getting our protein from plant sources, we don't absorb all of the protein that we can because it's trapped in some of the plant fibers that we can't quite break apart. So if you're a plant-based person, you need to increase your protein goal, usually by about 10% or so to actually get that amount of protein that you require. So keep that in mind too. If you're thinking like, Allie, I don't eat meat, these don't apply to me, I got you covered. Some quick math also. So if you think, I am a more active person, I need a higher protein intake than that, 6 ounces per meal, which is going to give you about 45 grams of protein per serving. That's also pretty good standard. I am a dead average woman of 5'5", and that's probably a good target for me to get close to my protein goal for that day. And that's going to mean that I should buy probably about 6.5 pounds of protein to fulfill that requirement. 6.5 pounds of raw protein to make that 14 meals of those 6 ounce servings. 8 ounces. So this is talking more about probably your 6 foot male, over 6 foot male, active male, a lot of muscle mass. 8 ounce servings. 8 ounce servings of protein is probably going to be pretty accurate. And that again is probably going to be around 60 grams of protein-ish in that ballpark, depending on the source. And that's going to be about almost 9 pounds of raw protein to get through the week. So 8.8 3/4 pounds of protein if we're using like ground sources like beef or chicken or turkey, shrimp, things like that. Again, I'll try to make that into a handout or something so you can guys can kind of see the math of like how much protein do I need to buy. So even if you don't end up cooking all of that, if you want to, by all means, go for it. But at least have that on hand so you know that you have that in the house and ready to cook when you are able to or when you need it. Point 3, what am I going to have for breakfast? If I'm quite honest, a lot of people suck at feeding themselves breakfast and they just don't have ideas or they think they don't have time or they're not hungry, etc. So even if you're not hungry for breakfast, I'm not going to force feed people, but I do encourage people to try to have a little bit of a breakfast that has protein in it. And then quite often they find that their hunger increases and their body is more open to having a breakfast if you kind of train yourself to do that. So obviously, not going to give too much generic advice. It really depends on the person, but I do highly recommend having breakfast. The majority of my clients, I feel like, do better with that versus fasting or pushing that meal back. Have your breakfast, in my opinion. Some good examples would be like 5 to 8 ounces of Greek yogurt. You could also do cottage cheese, blueberries, 1 ounce of nuts and seeds, cinnamon. That combination is fantastic. Sometimes I'll add some ground flaxseed to that to get a little bit extra fiber. But raspberries, blackberries would also be good additions as far as fruit for that. They're going to be a lot of fiber and pretty filling. A little note here, Greek yogurt and cottage cheese in single serve. While that can be helpful as a snack, I really like I think it's either Oikos or Chobani brands that will have like the single serve protein cups that are about 15 grams of protein. Those are fantastic snacks. It's honestly quite hard to find a snack form of protein that's going to give you that much, 15 grams of protein. So that's really good. And in a pinch, two of those, 30 grams of protein for a meal, fantastic. My latest trend, which I'm loving right now for my breakfast, has actually been, this is so weird to me, but I love it. I'll use a Greek yogurt, so it's plain, so not sweetened, and I'll add one of those Oikos sugar-free protein yogurts to it. So I'm adding one of the single serve 15 grams of protein yogurt pots to my already serving of, which is actually pretty close to the serving that the Greek yogurt says, the big tub of Greek yogurt says on the back, which is about 170 grams. And that gets me pretty close to 30, which is that's what I'm aiming for. But it also gives me a little bit of sweetness, not too much. If you get the sweetened versions of yogurt, typically the carbs just get really high. So I do prefer one of the sugar-free ones. Now, there are people that do not tolerate the sugar-free additives or stevia. They don't like the taste or for whatever reason. So if that's you, disregard this. Sweeten it with fruit, sweeten it with honey if you prefer. But I have been loving that because it gives me not a super sweet yogurt. It doesn't add excessive carbs to it. And I can still flavor it how I want with like blueberries or fruit, nuts and seeds, cinnamon, spices, all that on top. So I really love that combination. But this is also a note, like you will probably need more for a meal than just like the single serve cups. Those are not usually enough protein per meal. We're talking like 30, 40 grams of protein per meal would be ideal. So just keep that in mind. You might need a bigger serving than that one. When calories get high, it's usually when again we're using those flavored yogurts. So try to use a plain one in my opinion, or one of those sugar-free ones. To be honest, I find them very useful, or a combination of those two. Another good breakfast would be 2 eggs, 2 ounces of leftover protein, ground turkey, chicken, steak, whatever you have from previous dinner or something. 200 grams, which is about 2 cups of leftover vegetables. Scramble that all together. Add some salsa, add some hot sauce. Fantastic quick breakfast. It does not take very long to cook. Again, if you're using leftover veggies or maybe you bought some that are already sliced, prepped, whichever, does not take very long and you can just throw it together. If you are a larger male, consider like either 3 eggs, adding some egg whites to that, or you can do about 4 ounces of leftover protein. It's kind of my rule of two breakfast: 2 eggs, 2 ounces of leftover protein, 200 grams of vegetables for, again, average size woman. Works really well. And lastly, another good quick breakfast is just basically putting what I just said, the egg veggie scramble, burrito style, in a carb balance wrap. And these carb balance wraps have a ton of fiber in them. It's like 14 grams of fiber, which is close to, over half your fiber allotment for the day. So great way to boost your fiber at breakfast. All right, number 4, does my breakfast give me at least 30 grams of protein? Well, if you just listened to the breakfast I just listed, probably pretty damn close. So there you go. 4 is already solved. 5, what is the toughest day this week ahead for you? And how am I going to feed myself good balanced meals on that day? So for me, on Wednesday, I call it my eating like an asshole day. Or it's the day that I'm most susceptible to eating like an asshole. So eating like an asshole is something that you define. So this is not to put anybody down. I define eating like an asshole when you purposely don't eat to your potential. So for me, on Wednesdays is when I do horse things, and I have a lot of protein bars, protein shakes, some snacks, nuts, seeds. Like it's just not a very good filling day. And I just grab whatever's quick. So that is my example of eating like an asshole. I just don't do the best that I can. I am really happy for myself when I actually prepare myself a lunch to take with me, and I need to do that more often. So that is my definition of eating like an asshole. So think about your week and what day this is literally when you can pull out your calendar, look at your schedule, look at your days, and think, okay, what days is it going to be really hard to stick to the eating plan that I want? When is it going to be really hard to stick to the exercise that I want to do for myself, etc.? So look at those tough days and let's plan ahead. So if you've got a busy day, pack a lunch, buy a lunch box. Not everybody has those things in their house, so buy a lunch box if you can. Make sure you have a really good breakfast. So if it's not possible to have a lunch based on whatever you're doing, make sure you have a good breakfast. Make sure you have good plans for dinner, etc. See how you can kind of make make a compromise so you're still eating as best you can. If you need to, you can kind of make a snack lunch. So this could be a protein bar. Cliff Builder bars are great. They have about 20 grams of protein, but ideally it's a protein bar that has at least 15, if not 20 grams of protein. You could also do 3 ounces of a leftover meat in like a carb balance wrap or gluten-free wrap. You could also do like 3 turkey deli slices with avocado in the middle. Love doing that. You can have an apple, 2 tablespoons of peanut butter, something along those lines. That would be a pretty good snacky, easy to assemble lunch, but is not gonna, take a ton of time to prepare or anything like that. You could also scope out a nearby place to grab a quick meal. Grocery stores are my favorite for this. So if you have a Whole Foods or similar type of store nearby, quite often they have a salad bar or a hot bar full of a variety of foods, or maybe a deli that you can kind of piece together a meal. But that would be my first choice. And then after that, looking for another kind of fresh place, maybe Cafe Yum, Chipotle. I usually open my Maps app if I'm in an area that I don't know, and I just type in healthy food near me. And that usually filters some good ideas and at least gives me some fresh options. Quite often it comes up with plant-based things, but that's fine. Probably going to have vegetables and some sort of protein potentially to add on top. And then you can also Uber Eats restaurant meals. I've done this when we've gone to Las Vegas and there's just nothing close by that seems fresh. And I've had it delivered to the hotel. It was actually a meal prep company. I think I used a local meal prep company and Uber Eats it to the hotel, and that was wonderful. So there are a variety of options and ideas. Usually we just got to think outside the box a little bit of like, if I had to eat really well, if I really wanted to make it a priority, like what could I do? Get creative, see what's around. All right. Number 6 on my list. What days am I going to the gym or going to get some intentional exercise? Put it on your calendar. Don't leave it to chance. Leaving it to chance is just, not a viable strategy unless you are in a solid routine. If not exercising is never an option for you, then we're probably fine. We can leave it to adjust things. For example, I usually do that for most of my weeks. I know I'm going to work out probably at least 4 to 5 times, and I'm quite happy with that. I might alternate the days, but I'm never missing or going below that typically. But I definitely recommend, if this is a newer habit, getting very specific of what days I'm going to the gym, what days am I gonna do my intentional exercise. I define exercise as intentional session to get sweaty, work your muscles, and or get your heart rate up. Your exercise should be harder than your chosen favorite activities or hobbies. I consider my exercise as training for life, training for those hobbies. For me, for my life, I need to be able to lift heavy things on the farm. I need to have strong muscles. I need to have very sturdy bones for being around my horses. This is a safety issue, in my opinion. I want to be able to push myself in my workouts, so my daily physical activities remain very sustainable for a very long time. They're very attainable. I'm not worried about them. I feel very safe and confident in my physical abilities. Also, make sure you have clean gym clothes. Set them out if you need to beforehand, but those, again, little logistical things can be very helpful. This is also when following a program where you, again, don't have to make a decision of what am I going to do today in the gym. Don't ask that question. I've exercised for well over 10 years. And I still really love to walk in with a plan or walk into a class and I know the rest of the hour is taken care of and I don't have to, again, think about anything else. Highly recommend that. Also, one more thing, even if we haven't prepared our gym clothes ahead of time, even if we haven't set our running shoes out, any of those things, that is not a free pass to not go. Preparing is great, but also if this stuff is new, we're going to have to get scrappy and we're going to have to figure it out and we're going to have to make it happen somehow. And 7 is to go with those exercise days. When are your rest days? So hopefully this one's kind of taken care of, right? If we've already planned our workout days. But I put this in here because some people forget that these are just as important. 1 to 2 rest days a week is good. This is especially important if you are trying to gain muscle. Muscle is broken down in the gym and built when you are resting, recovering, refueling, and sleeping. So make sure this is still a part of your plan. If you're working hard 6, 7 days a week and wondering why you're not seeing as much progress, you might need to rest. This doesn't mean you get to lay on the couch all day. I would still say still walk like 2 times a day, still get your steps in, but you do need to give your muscles a chance to rest from lifting or from those specific exercises. Number 8, when am I going to get my daily walks in? In parentheses here, I have near daily. I would love to see a daily walk. I know sometimes that doesn't happen, but I want that to be the goal of like, I'm walking every day. I want this to be a habit and make it like an appointment, fit it in there. I'm pretty serious about putting it on your calendar. So this is really important. Simply making walking a regular habit helps digestion, helps stress reduction, which also helps us manage our appetite, our moods, our emotions, and all of those things make eating well so much easier. It makes healthy weight management so much easier. So just this one habit can just help a lot of our other healthy habits just by doing that one thing. Think about it. I mean, a lot of people have struggled with emotional eating, stress eating, binge eating. And if I can manage our stress levels and have a really good, regulated emotional state, eating becomes a lot easier. And walking is a really powerful thing to do that. So don't skip on that. Make it a habit. Guaranteed life changer right there. Okay, last one, I promise. Number 9 on my list, set your alarms for the week. This is a great strategy because you are making the decision for the week ahead of time now before you're tired, before you had a late dinner commitment or whatever comes up in your week later on in your week, right? If you set your alarms ahead of time, you're making that decision to go. So if you're setting your alarm for the gym in the morning, I do this every week. Monday, we go to the gym at 6 a.m. Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, it's a 6 a.m. workout. Tuesday, if we're going to make it to the gym, that means we're at the gym at 5 a.m. So Tuesday's alarm is 4:05 in the morning. And that's made. It's set to repeat. So unless something comes up or we consciously rearrange things, like that's the plan. So Jared is really good. My husband Jared is really fantastic about making sure that we don't ask the wrong questions. And the wrong question is, "Hey, honey, do you want to go to the gym in the morning?" He's like, "Wrong question. It's Tuesday. We're going to the gym. Tuesdays we go to the gym. Wednesdays we go to the gym." It's not one of those days that it's a question mark. It's a thing we do. Like, don't ask that question. Don't ask like, "Do you want to?" No. If you ask me if I want to go for a walk after work, the answer is no. Do I go for a walk after work most days? Yes, because that's what makes me happier. I've never regretted it. It gives me great results, but I don't always want to go. Don't ask that question, right? And I would also add to this, make sure that you are setting bedtime reminders as well. So this is kind of a bonus tip, but set bedtime reminders reminding you to go to bed. Then you can also plan like, okay, if I'm gonna have to get up at 4 a.m. on Tuesday, I better be in bed by 8 p.m. And you can set your phone to send reminders of like, hey, 30 minutes till bedtime. Those are very, very helpful when we are trying to kind of rearrange our schedule. But I love doing this. This is really helpful. By the way, don't always have an alarm. Saturday is a no alarm day. Sunday is 7 a.m., but that's mostly so I get to the gym for a 9 a.m. class. So definitely give it a try. Set your alarms, make sure we get good rest. And again, that manages our energy level and that also helps us eat better as well if we're not relying on caffeine and food to keep us awake. We got good rest, we got good sleep. Food gets, again, a lot easier. All right, that's what I got for you. I will also try to put this in a PDF form and link it so you can have this literal checklist for you. Mostly as a guide. Again, this is a guide. It's not necessarily going to be the habits that work best for you, but hopefully at least gives you an idea of what key habits you need to be thinking of before the week starts. For some people, it's, having a clean kitchen, having all the laundry done, etc. But what is most likely going to give you the best possible week ahead of time, and try to narrow down those habits and make sure those things are happening before all the craziness of the week gets going. Last reminder, please follow this podcast, share it, subscribe, leave a comment, a review, anything like that. It greatly, greatly helps me out, and I really want to grow this and help more people with real life nutrition advice and nutrition advice that doesn't make us crazy, right? And don't forget to subscribe to the Free Shit Friday email list, parksidenutrition.com/subscribe. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you on the next one.